Hello, book watchers, and welcome back to part two of our Wicked discussion. Of course, Jordyn and Chris are with me, and we are joined once again with Abbey, who is our Wicked stage production guru. I also have a ladybug that has entered my office, so I might get a little distracted from time to time, so forgive me. We are here to talk about the plot of Wicked. And let's just kick things off with Elphaba's birth and actually, no, let's back up
So,
because
so
we
this is
have a
part
beautiful
two of our
entrance.
Wicked, right? So this is Book Watch for Good.
Yes.
Yes.
So Glinda comes to the Munchkin Land. I believe it's Munchkin Land. And
Mhm.
we get our for good number. No, sorry. What's the
No
No
one
one mourns
mourns
the
the
wicked.
wicked.
Thank
Yeah.
you. No one mourns the wicked number. And in the middle of that, we're introduced to her history and the mother having the affair and being born green because of the green elixir. So talk to me a little bit. Let's start with you, Jordyn, and talk to us about how you enjoyed or didn't enjoy seeing this part of the play brought to the big screen.
I liked it a lot. I had no like prior knowledge or experience with Wicked other than listening to the soundtrack. And so it was cool to like be able to see who was talking and who was saying what and like the facial expressions. Cuz I think Ariana like did a really good job portraying that like even though we're saying like no one mourns the wicked and we're so glad that the witch is dead, like she's actually sad about it because her and Elphaba are dear friends. And so being able to have that facial expression of her being sad while singing that she's happy was good, and helpful for me as somebody with no prior experience, because when you're just listening to a song, like you just have to listen to the words and the way they're being sung, and you don't get to see like that she's about to start crying because she's sad that her friend is dead. So I think it was a really good visual representation. And then when it kind of loops back on itself in the end of part two, and you get to see it again a little bit more, and it hits even harder, and you feel it even deeper, and that loss that Glinda's going through like hurts even more, because in the beginning it's still a little confusing. You're like, why is she like looking like that? Like, I'm confused. And so then by the time you get all the way through it where it loops back, you're like, oh, I get it, and it hurts so bad now. It's so emotionally painful. But yeah, I really liked it. I think the production value was great. Ariana looked great, and everything looked bright, and it looked like it was straight out of The Wizard of Oz, like with the bright yellow brick road and like all the munchkins in their costumes. Like, it was really good. What did you think, Abby? How did it compare to the stage production?
I loved it for sure. I think that's something that, again, with it being a movie, you can really get the whole scene. Like, you get kind of a bird's eye view of everything that's going on. And I think they did a really great job, like you said, of making it feel like you're in the Wizard of Oz, like, especially the Yellow Brick Road, like the Munchkin Land. Like, that's such an iconic scene in the Wizard of Oz as well. And I think they did a really good job of portraying that. And then again, having that seemed like kind of the same take, or not the same take, but it looked very similar, like when they brought that back in the end, but then kind of pointing it in a different direction. I thought that was really, really cool, because in the stage production, you kind of get that, like everyone's wearing kind of the same costumes, but I think one thing that was different about the movie is the immediacy, like how quickly or how soon after Glinda's kind of giving this flashback, um, versus in the stage production. I feel like I kind of got more of a time gap in there between like when she's retelling the story, and kind of when it happened. So that was pretty cool. And then kind of just one thing about that kind of opening number two, I kind of heard from people who saw the movie and not the musical, seemed like it's so obvious that the wizard is Elphaba's dad, like from
Hmm.
that first um from that first scene. It's like, Jeff Goldblum's, even though they kind of, you know, edited his voice a little bit, it's still kind of
It was
obvious. And
all
also,
there.
if you
Yeah.
look at the song credits, like you can kind of see, versus in the stage production, you kind of are, you don't really figure that out until the second act. It's still kind of a mystery. You can't really see who's singing. The voice sounds different. Like you could maybe make an educated guess, but I definitely remember seeing the stage production and having that be like a revelation later on. Versus I feel like you could kind of maybe pick up on it. But you guys let me know if that if you had that same effect, like with the wizard being the father and everything. And I know that's different in the book too. So
In the book, you almost never see anything about that other than that the time dragon says he's your father, that the wizard is your father to her at some point, but we don't get that visual. But I actually didn't mind the fact that we knew because the wizard didn't know. And so all through, like when we get that reveal in the second half, where he finds out that he just basically had his daughter killed and how much, a sentimental man was about how he wanted to have a family and how now he's the villain entirely of his own, story arc even. And it made for a good reveal, I think, even though we already knew, it made for him finding out really being impactful. One of the things about the movie I really like is how much they had to avoid copyright infringement on the Wizard of Oz, and so like the brick road is not the spiral uh, that we see in the Wizard of Oz. It's slightly changed so that they can not get sued. And there's so much of this, all even through I think even through the stage play, but they had to be very strategic about how they showed certain things, and like the shoes being the silver shoes based on the book versus the red ruby slippers based on the Wizard of Oz, things like that that really I thought were interesting to look up later and see all these Easter eggs of things they changed to make it um, more the movie, not different from the Wizard of Oz, just enough.
So we are then introduced to Shiz, and I loved their transition from No One Mourns the Wicked to being the flashback essentially. And then we're introduced to more of our characters. We're introduced to Glinda and Bach, Morrible. What did you guys think of these next few scenes?
It flowed really well. I thought that it introduced the school in an interesting way of like, and it gave us that Ness is getting the preference to go to school, whereas Elphaba was meant to go home and just be green elsewhere and not bother anybody, and that didn't work out for her father the way he wanted. Um, and yeah, I thought it was a really well done way to introduce our characters there as they go to school.
yeah, that was really cool to see. On in the stage production, there's only so much you can do to kind of convey that you're in a school now, and it's like a really quick kind of set change, and the songs kind of flow into each other, and that's similar here too. But I think there's a little bit more of an interlude. But then you can really see kind of the landscape, like all the buildings and everything. Like that was really cool as just having that visual. And then when Glinda comes in, like on her boat, and with all those stacks of suitcases and bags, like that's a pretty iconic kind of visual from the stage production as well. She's not on a boat, but it's kind of like a rolling cart, but stacked super high of the with the baggage. And so I that was a nice little nod to that as well, but just adapted to have it be like surrounded by water and everything, which I love that. Added more depth to it, like dimension to it.
Momsicle and Popsicle. Momsy and Popsicle, I think it was.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud when I watched part one, like at home, and so I got the subtitles on there, and I was like, and it said Popsicle like as his name actually, and I was like, oh, I didn't. I guess we're calling him that. Like, well, obviously we know that Glinda calls him that, but it was just funny to. It wasn't like something upland. It was like literally Popsicle was
That's funny.
how it was credited. Yeah,
Again, unreliable narrator.
yeah, yeah.
I thought the intro scene to Shiz was interesting in how it gave um, Elphaba and Nessa's dad a little bit more depth in like a bad way. Because like in the book, he's a lot of it is very different, but like his character is he's more of like a bumbling fool type of character. Like nobody really takes him seriously. He's like, yes, he favors Nessa and he mistreats Elphaba, but it's not really like open abuse the way that it is implied and portrayed in the movie, where he's like actively like yelling at Elphaba, or like, you know, whisper yelling at her, like, do what I say, like take care of your sister, do this, do that, like bossing her around and like being like a little bit more like aggressive towards her. Versus in the book he's very like laid back, like, well, you know how your sister is, like you have to take care of her, like a lot gentler in the book. And so I think like that, taking the time in the movie to shine that light on him and give him like, this is part of why Elphaba is who she is and how she is and why she doesn't open herself up to people, because she never had those tight familial bonds. And even Nessa, like, she's my sister and I love her, Nessa does not treat Elphaba well. Like she like is mean to her and blames her, and like, you know, that's not a healthy sister bond. You know, I have two sisters. I kind of know what I'm talking about there. So like I've,
Almost as entitled as Glinda in some ways.
yes, in a lot of ways. And she's portrayed that way in the book too, where she's like, well, you have to help me. You have to do this. You owe me this, that, and the other. As far as like treatment, and it's just assumed that it's okay to treat Elphaba the way that everybody does. So like getting that kind of insight into those two characters and like kind of turning up their negative aspects a little bit more in the movie, I thought was like an interesting choice, but also like a good choice, because it brings them more to the forefront and they have more to do, even if it's like doing bad things to Elphaba.
Yeah, like in that first kind of entrance to Shiz, and kind of the one of the reason that Elphaba's magic is exposed, or her powers, or whatever they're calling it, is because, you know, Nessa is trying to, you know, wheel herself somewhere, and then I think it's Miss Coddle or whatever her name is, the Shistress, is like trying to, you know, take her away, and then Elphaba gets mad and is like defending her, right? And so, I mentioned in the previous episode, like I'm a wheelchair user, like I have a kind of a different perspective on all that as well, but I did love to see that, like kind of that protectiveness from Elphaba. And in the stage production, you kind of see that a little bit, but it happens so fast. Like, and in that, it's Madame Marble too, who's trying to take her away, and then, but it was a little bit unclear, I would say, like why she kind of flew off the handle, and you know, the chairs moving everywhere, and all of that. And so I did like that, and also because we got that flashback of their childhood, um kind of another example of her, of Elphaba defending Nessa, and you know, trying to protect her and all of that. And clearly Nessa didn't receive it very well. Like you could kind of see that she acknowledged it when they're both like, don't help me, don't help her. You could see it a little bit, but that's kind of the only time that I can think of that Nessa really acknowledged what Elphaba was doing to support her. For the most part, I was like, why are you here? Like, go away.
Yeah.
Like, but
Because
yeah, and then yeah.
even like after that, it turns into Nessa being like, you know, why did you do that? Why did you like make a scene and make it about you? Like this is supposed to be my
Oh,
experience in my
we
school. Like
lost her.
why are you? And
Oh no.
like your sister.
With Nessa and Alpha's family relationship there, we were just talking about with the way they're treating each other. I think a lot of that is the way that siblings tend to see one way when they're at home and before when they're being raised, how they're treat each other. And a lot of times that is something you have to learn to. Oh, my sibling was protecting me. They weren't trying out to get me that whole time. They were protecting me from my parents, from everyone else. It just Nessa still is buying into her parents' idea that Althaba is bad, and that's something that a lot of kids can I think relate to in their upbringing sometimes, and so I like that.
Yeah, and I can kind of, you know, maybe empathize with it a little bit, which is unfortunate because I think obviously she's very flawed, but I can understand that idea of like you already have some kind of a barrier. Like obviously she's in a wheelchair and like she had a struggle, and then it's like there's something else that is creating more of a struggle and like bringing more attention, like when maybe she kind of wanted to be back in the shadows a little bit.
Mhm.
But I do think it's interesting that like her being in a wheelchair is not like the biggest point of like I guess discrimination. Like that's not the biggest issue. And we kind of touched on race in the first episode too, but it's Alphaba's greenness is definitely more of I guess like an aberration than Nessa being in the wheelchair, which is kind of an interesting like yeah, just like view on like how their society views different
Mhm.
things or like different differences. So I do think that's interesting to see like, oh, like, the character in the wheelchair, like that's part of her character, but like we hate her because she's being awful and not like because she's in the wheelchair. You know what I mean? So I do kind of appreciate that in a way.
And Shiz was a very diverse place when you looked around at
Yeah.
the casting of all the other students and all that. I felt like they did a really good job of having all sorts of people and different just looks all around. And you're like, wow, okay, this is a diverse place, and they still can't handle a girl with green skin. That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're fine with people in wheelchairs. We're fine with munchkins. We're fine with a lot of
Right.
things. Green, absolutely not. Animal, absolutely not. Even though the animals can like talk and wear clothes and like hold positions of authority, like being professors, it's like we're gonna actually backtrack and
This is
like
where we
kick the
draw the
animals
line.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, green skin is where we can't do that. That's too much.
So after all of the commotion in the courtyard, Madame Morble takes Elphaba aside and explains that she's got what it takes and might be able to beat the wizard one day. And we get a beautiful number by Cynthia called The Wizard and I. And we talked a little bit last week about her Michelle's singing voice. It's just a little bit in the beginning of the song. But what did we think of this scene? Both the performances, the cinematography, especially when she is underneath like the stained glass and the color combination takes away the green and it's so cool. And then the field. So tell me, Abby, your thoughts on seeing this number come to life.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It's one of my favorite songs from the musical in general. And one thing kind of right before the song too, I don't remember, but I don't think this is part of the stage production where Madame Marlable like takes credit for what happened and like Alphaba's use of the magic or the power. Um it's possible, but if it is, it's like minute. So that is interesting, and I do like that that added because it kind of keeps it a little bit more under wraps, and also kind of showing like she had Madame Morrible like has Elphaba's back. Obviously we see that she's just using her and
Mhm.
all of that good stuff, but I think in the stage production everyone has more fear of Elphaba, yes, because of the green skin, but also because they could kind of directly tie those incidents to her. So just kind of like before, like leading into that song, but the song in general, I think, is great. She did a great job. I mentioned in the previous episode too, like as kind of a music nerd, like was really picky, and had that soundtrack on repeat for like most of my life. So any little differences I picked up on. But I do think that the majority of any changes that happen, just like musically, were pretty tasteful. Um, and it's really hard when you're redoing something that's so iconic as some of those
Mhm.
songs too. And so I think she did a good job with that. And one thing I do appreciate about that song too, like when she is kind of having that premonition about like the celebration in Oz that has to do with her, like we actually visually see that.
Mhm.
That kind of foreshadowing, which is something that you don't really get in the stage production either. And then just visually, as you kind of get to see more of the scenery like inches, and then she's running out into the field. And I watched it recently with my mom, who's from the Midwest, and she's like, yep, that's a little nod to Kansas right there. Like just with that with that field and everything. And so I thought it was great. And again, having it be a movie versus stage production, you can really see all that emotion and how much she really does believe in the wizard at that point. Um, and so I loved it. Great. Love both versions. So
I really did think that cinematography and the effects they used with the stained glass was absolutely stunning. It went with the
Mhm.
song really well. It let her reflect on herself a bit while seeing the different versions of her that could be. And I really appreciated the song and thought it filled the story in a little bit more, little by little here.
I really love the set of Shiz. It feels like I've never been to Venice, but it's what I imagine Venice is like in its
Yeah.
heyday, like with the canals everywhere and like the ivy on the buildings, and it just feels so magical and beautiful and like very grounded and otherworldly at the same time. Like it feels like a fantasy setting. And so like that's what I was like paying attention to the most, I think. Sorry to the song, but I was like, wow, this is just really visually very stunning and very beautiful to look at.
Like, forget the
And
green
getting to
chick. Look at that building.
yeah, yeah, a little bit, which, that just makes me a little bit more like Book Glinda because she loves architecture. So that's what I was doing.
Fair
Totally.
enough.
I will say that like the carving of Jeff Goldblum, like when she goes into that little cave and it's just his face, that took me out of it a little bit. Like we know it's the wizard, but then also watching the One Wonderful Night, like it
The
was kind
clip
of
of
funny to see
him
like
taking it, yeah.
yeah, how
It
they're like,
actually wasn't
what's
the
the
wizard
one
at
thing
all.
you
It's
took from
literally
set?
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
He's just in universe too. You know, they're like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, we also
totally.
love Jeff Goldblum here.
It's perfect.
Yeah, he's part of the Emerald City Players. You don't know him?
That's why they had the big contraption in there because they didn't want people to recognize him as both characters. You know,
True.
That's what
he's
it
the
is.
wizard
Mhm.
and Jeff Goldblum.
So I was just looking to see if Wicked did get any Oscars for like design, and the only Oscars they won were Best Achievement in Production Design and then Best Achievement in Costume Design.
Okay.
Because it is a beautiful set and it's beautiful cinematography. I swear to God, if they don't win cinematography or acting this year, I'm gonna be so sad. Um,
Just gonna
but
be
yeah, I
Hawk
mean
that
the
wins
set
acting or something.
Stop it.
the sets are so good and so detailed. And it like Shiz is so colorful and yeah, it's a beautiful film, both visually and audioly.
And they did do a lot of practical effects too. They tried to keep a lot
Hmm.
of things very stage like in a lot of ways, so they could make
They
it.
planted like billions of those flowers for that
They built
opening
Oz. They
scene.
built that. Yeah, they built that field.
Yeah.
They really tried to live in the world, not just show us a CGI
Yeah, it's an
world.
Mhm.
incredible production. So we are moving along in the story and we're kind of doing, the back to school montage, right? And our next number is the roommate number, and these girls just don't like each other. And that brings us to what is this feeling? And it's just a really fun
So much fun.
montage song.
Mhm.
Reminds me a lot of Wednesday and Edith in the Wednesday Adams show too. That was like
Yes, the
they
contrast.
probably mimicked this, but it was just like this is perfectly like bound like the same sort of characters that are put up against each other here.
Yeah.
Mhm. No, I think it was great, and like the split screen too of like having their facial expressions side by side for part of it too. I thought was pretty cool. And also uh, because it's a movie, it took us through. It seemed like several days,
Mhm.
probably, or we don't really know how
Even
long,
weeks or
but
months, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But not just in one sitting, which is kind of the effect in the stage production. So you could really see how much time was passing. Like they're going to class, they're in the cafeteria, and just that ability to kind of be in different places kind of throughout it, showing more of that time element, I feel like was pretty cool, and added to it for sure. Yeah, it sounded great too. So
Built that sexual tension.
for sure.
Okay, and then we we're learning about our teachers, and we're introduced to Dr. Dillamond, and that he pulls down the screen, and there's the message that animals don't belong here. So we're kind of introduced to that arc, that's going to become a bigger deal later on. And then Elphaba stumbles upon this meeting, and then we get the something bad. She gets a little bit more information about the animals disappearing, and there's nothing beyond Oz, and why can't we ask the wizard? And so this is kind of like this is the most we really get to hear Dr. Dillamond, Peter Dinklage speak, and a little song by him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how they
Ah.
expanded this. I like how they expanded this, because in the stage production, it kind of goes into it right away. So he flips the easel and we see the words, and then he's like, class dismissed, and then Elphabet Day is behind to help him, clean up, console him, and then it goes straight into that song. So in the movie, there's a little bit of a gap. Like she's, we see that there's a meeting with other animals. And so I really liked that as well, because I mentioned the previous episode too. Like, we don't see very many of the animals in the stage productions, mainly just Dr. Dillamond, the monkeys, and the lion, and the big dragon over the top that I talked about before. We're like, we don't have a lot of context for that. But having kind of that, kind of described it as like a little union meeting almost of the animals, I feel like really helps to it helps us understand that storyline, and also how many more animals were at Shiz and were professors. Because if we were just watching the stage production, it kind of seemed like maybe Dr. Dillamond was the only one. You could kind of imply that there were more, but again, those CGI effects really, I think, were really helpful in setting the stage for that in the movie.
And it really gives us that reason to feel what the animals are feeling, the reason to see what Elphaba's feeling through these moments of something is happening bad here. I need to do something about it. I think the wizard is good and he can help us, is what we see from her, and start to feel her thinking he can fix this. I've been told he can do great things. He's the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And we start to see that, oh, he might not be, or there's something definitely going on here that he's not paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think having this song so close to The Wizard and I, like that juxtaposition of like she really does believe in the wizard, and she really has that faith in him that like he's the wonderful wizard. He can do anything. He can make me not green. He can help the animals. And she has that like almost like a parental trust in him, like like a little kid, like, well, that's my dad, my dad can do anything, kind of a feeling is what I was getting from it. And so then to have it be like there's something bad happening, and like Dr. Dillon doesn't have that kind of faith, and is really like starting her on her journey of like questioning the wizard, and like maybe you can trust him, maybe you can't, but you really should think about that before you just like blindly accept what you're being told. So I think like the timing of those things within the plot is interesting and important too.
Never meet your heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
Or your dad, I guess, for this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a whole different issue, but
There's a little bit more movie, but we're gonna skip ahead to being introduced to the sexiest man alive through the song "Dancing Through Life." And there's the moments before as Glinda finds out he's arriving, and there's the scene by like the bulletin board, and
even
then
before that, there was a moment where he rides up and bumps
oh
into
yes, how could I
her.
forget, with his horse, and they seem to have a really great relationship, the horse and him.
I
Yeah.
kind of want more information about that story because he's riding a horse with like a whole saddle and everything, but it's a talking horse. So
Yep.
is that what's going on there? Is Elphaba really okay with him enslaving this horse to be his transportation, and yet we see this horse throughout the rest of the story, of just never getting any independence? What's going on there? I don't
They
know.
seem to be pals. I was kind of
They're
getting like
pals.
a Kristoff and Sven vibe a little bit.
Hmm.
But
Um,
was he just waiting around for him to get out of school? He didn't have any agency of another job. What? Where are the animal rights activists for this character? I want. I
honestly,
want to know
so
what his
true.
job is.
Where's Ozzy and PETA?
Right. Yeah. What's going on here?
um, what is that character in the stage play?
The
Say it
horse.
again.
Is the horse in the stage play?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I think they do have one. I
Okay.
should remember this. Again, disclaimer: the last time I saw it was when I was 15, so over 10 years ago. But I believe so. Obviously, it doesn't talk.
Mm.
So if there is one, that's embarrassing that I don't remember. But if there is one, it doesn't talk. So
Feldspar is
kind
his
of that
name.
difference in the animals there.
How do you remember how Fiero was introduced
I
on
was gonna
stage?
say that, um, that it is different because that scene, like where he runs into her, is in front of a lot of students, and
Mm.
so kind of it's more of an embarrassing moment, I think, for Elphaba, because he makes some joke about her greenness again, and it's in front of everyone. Everybody laughs, and yeah, and then it kind of had there's more animosity, I guess, between them because it was more of a public
Okay.
embarrassment versus
Mm.
like them meeting in the woods by themselves, which I mean, love that for the romance part.
That that like public introduction is going to be more in line with the books. In the book, Fiero like he's a prince, but like the prince of like a backwater civilization, basically. Like they're widely disrespected and
Hmm.
thought of as like second class citizens within Oz, the Winkies. And so he like even though he's like the prince of the Winkies, it's not like wow, like he's a super hot prince and like we should all like he's not like a prince that people are trying to win, in that like, kind of Disney sense where like you're trying to win the prince's heart. But he like comes into class late and then there's no seats and then he just is like standing there in the corner because he can't like get to his seat. And it like that's the first time that we meet Fiero, and it is he doesn't I don't think he interacts directly with Elphaba or Glinda or anybody else in that moment, but like his first introduction is him like being publicly humiliated in front of everybody on accident. And so like that would be more in line with that stage production introduction versus here it's like he gets the big like parade announcement type deal where he's like, oh, it's a prince and come pay attention and bat your eyelashes and try to get his attention. So that is not that's a new thing.
And I looked it up. The horse is an offstage character in the play, as whereas in the movie he gets that a little bit of screen time, but
Okay,
he's
thank you.
just mentioned a couple times in the play.
I did hear that it's the same horse from Bridgerton. I don't know if
I
that's
yeah,
legit.
I heard
Yeah.
that too.
I knew that horse
Did
could
did he
talk.
buy it? Like, isn't that his horse now?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
There,
Good for
he's like, yeah,
him.
you guys can paint him blue for the movie. It's fine.
Horse of a different color. Yeah.
There you go.
That is cool. That's an
Yeah.
actor and getting the horse to get to play that again. Another
Hmm.
role. I mean, that's a maybe the horse will get an Oscar.
Yeah.
As he should.
Okay, so Dancing Through Life takes us to the Ozdas dance, and the Elphaba goes to Madame Marble for the wand to give to Glinda because she told Bach to ask Nessa Rose to the dance. And she comes to the dance with the ugly hat, and we have a very emotional moment. And then we go back to their room and we get the song Popular. But what, Abby, was the Ozdas scene like on the stage, and how did that compare to what we see on screen?
Yeah. I think there was a little bit of difference. We kind of got the idea that it was like illegal place to be. But it was a little fuzzy. I feel like it was maybe a little fuzzy in the movie too. Um, like maybe just because they're underage. I don't really know. But I do have this like distinct memory from the stage production. They have these like two big, like it almost looks like they're jars of sand that like kind of come down from the ceiling. I don't really know why that just always sticks in my head. Kind of it's like a different location. I don't know. But I think what I really loved about both is kind of those big ensemble dance numbers, kind of in both. Like it's pretty cool. It's fun to see. Like and again in the movie you can see it more from different angles and everything like that. Um and so I think a difference in the movie is that I keep bringing it up, but the facial expressions, like you can really see their relationship, Alphaba and Glinda's relation, Galinda at the time, relationship developing like through that song and their dance that they have. Versus in the stage production, you kind of understand what's going on, but um, like you can kind of like visually see Galinda's shift, and like kind of see her and through different eyes almost. It through that dance and also having that appreciation from talking to Madame Marble and everything. Like if I remember correctly, I don't think Madame Marble actually comes um there. I think it's kind of portrayed in a different way. So overall, I think it was beautiful. We definitely see more animals there too in the movie, like playing the instruments.
My
And
wife pointed out that
so
they
that
seemed to all be like the help though, and like it seemed like another
yeah,
reference
yeah.
to racial problems or things like that in some ways.
It's true. It kind of gave me the vibe of it's in one of in the Little Mermaid, like where it's like music isn't allowed, and then they kind of all go into this
Yeah.
underground, um,
Yes.
and then that's when
It's,
everyone's like playing music, and then I don't think I think it's
it's a
like number three.
prequel.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
it came out third, but it's the Little Mermaid prequel. It's Ariel's
yeah.
beginning.
So it kind of gave
But
me
yes,
that same vibe because you kind of get the
like a
idea that they're
speakeasy.
underwater, kind of too.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mentioned the previous episode too. Like I cry every time when I see that the unscripted
Mhm,
moment where
mhm.
Elphaba has the tears and yeah, just like seeing their bond established in that way. Like I think they expanded on that really well in the movie.
Yeah, that moment is really emotional for both the characters and for everybody watching because it's the moment that Elphaba gets a little bit of acceptance because Glinda chose to step out and make a choice to say, I have to become friends with her. I have to give her the benefit of the doubt. I have to actually try with this friendship here, this relationship here. She put her neck out for me. I have to put my neck out for her.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
mean, other than the wanton destruction of books at the beginning, I think that the whole dancing through life is a lot of fun, and definitely all the filming, the way they did all that, absolutely
Yeah,
amazing,
incredible
absolutely well done. Yeah,
choreography, and they got
Yeah.
choreography, all of
parkour
it. Yeah,
parkour
Oh yeah.
performers.
yeah,
Yeah.
another
Yeah, I mean,
great thing.
incredible.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
really, really, really loved all that and the way they did that. But also, Elphaba's moment of, Iron Man 3 moment of, I had just created demons. She created Bach's first interaction with Nezero. She created the relationship dynamic that she was shooting for with Fiero. It's her moment of being the villain of the story a little bit at that point.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah, one thing too that I understood a little bit more when I watched the movie versus the stage production. Um, when so in the stage production, when Bach is, like Nessa, it's like you confessa, and then they start dancing and everything. Like I kind of was under the impression that maybe Bach was a little bit interested in her. Um, and like yes, obviously he was in love with Galinda. But I thought like maybe there was something drawing him to Nessa a little bit more than just like that obligation. But in the movie, you could really see, especially when it's like, because, and then he turns and looks at Glinda, like making out with Fiero. Um, like you can see it a little bit more, that he really was not interested in her. So I thought that was interesting because it made things make more sense, like, later on, like, when he ends up being like, "I have to go confess my love to Glinda," and everything, like, that makes more sense in the movie, versus in the stage production. I was like, "Oh, I kinda thought you liked her a little bit," but not really at all. So that could have been me, like, reading it wrong in the stage production too, but, I think it was helpful to kinda get that context for what we see later.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the beginning of Dancing Through Life a little bit. I noticed there was a lyric change, or like the interlude change, and then like our conversation about like what type of place the Ozdust Ballroom is, because I noticed in the like Broadway soundtrack that's out, he asks Galinda, "What's the most swingified place in town? Like, where should we go if we want to like have a good time and do something?" And she says, "Oh, we should go to the Ozdust Ballroom. Like, that's the place to go." Versus in the movie, he just says, "Let's go to the Ozdust Ballroom." Like, he already knows about this place. He like it's his idea to go there, and so I think that like A is interesting that he just got here, but he already knows about this place. But B, like, because he and Elphaba end up aligned on like their politics regarding the animals and the treatment of animals by the end of the story, like him wanting to go to like a quote unquote illicit place like that where there are animals all over and like working there and like part of the environment kind of is an interesting choice to have him like wanting to go there versus being told that or have it be suggested to him. And then again, like for me, having previously only listened to the soundtrack, the whole dance scene between Elphaba and Glinda never got that. So I was sitting there super confused last year, the first time I saw it. Like, what are they doing? This dance is weird. Why is this happening? Like, I was very rewatching it. Like, I get it, and it like is very emotional and very like brave of Galinda to go out there in that moment when and like put her reputation out on the line. And so it is a very special moment. But the first time I saw it, I was like, "What is this right now? Why are we doing this?"
The
Yeah,
dance
and in
threw
the
my wife
stage
off a little
production.
bit because it was a little bit like she didn't understand why what was it about this dance that like does everybody know
Mhm.
this dance? Is it a cultural dance? Is this the Macarena? What is she doing here? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and in the
I
stage production too, like or in the soundtrack, they do cut out like there is more of a musical interlude that we see on stage, but it's not as long and you don't really get as much of the significance in that. So it does break and like when they, edit it and put it all together, they cut that out.
Mhm.
And I believe on the movie soundtrack they do have like a separate track for that part of it. But yeah, definitely more clear, I would say, on like the significance of that dance in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I think there is a small conversation between Fiero and Glinda about where is the best part, but I think it's before the song starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had noticed that on my most recent rewatch of Wicked before going to see for good. Um, because and that stood out to me on the last rewatch. But I think it happens before the
I
Okay.
thought
song
he
because
just
I had
asked another
noticed too.
student. I think he just like as he's walking around, he says, "Hey, what's the best place to go around
It's
here?"
very
Yeah.
It's a
subtle.
very small
If I
note. Yeah.
remember,
Okay.
yeah,
And I think Glinda's like, isn't that illegal? Or like somewhat illegal or something like
Yeah.
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's something like that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Are you guys ready to move on to popular?
Mhm.
Always.
Yes.
So yeah, thoughts on popular?
I can't believe
Oh,
they almost ruined this song. I heard an internet rumor that they wanted to like somebody suggested that they should change the like style of the song to be more like one of Ariana's like pop songs, and she was like, "No, don't do that. Like just leave it how it is. Like we shouldn't change it." And I'm like, "Thank God that she did that because like again, somebody who doesn't have experience, doesn't have any attachment, like I know popular, I know that song, I know that it's from Wicked, it's one of those like iconic
Mm-hmm.
things about Wicked that even if you don't know anything, you know about that. And so to like take something so fundamental to the to the property and change it, I think would have been a huge mistake. Even if, somebody as talented as Ariana is going to be the one singing it, like, it just would have been a bad choice. So I'm glad she saved it.
It had also gotten so big and popular as a TikTok audio and all those things that people were doing it long before the movie came out, which was giving the film production of it such a large boost even before that happened. So that would have really messed with people if they had completely changed the song. So yeah, I'm
Totally.
glad
Yeah,
they didn't.
definitely
It was well done.
props to Ariana for sure. I saw the same article or whatever or interview where she was like, "No, I am Glinda. I'm not Ariana Grande playing Glinda." That she like just really had a lot of respect for the role, and that because I was skeptical too when I heard that she was going to be cast for it. Like, ooh, but just showing how much she cared, and like she took extra vocal lessons to kind of expand her range and her style and everything so that she could really just like nail that Broadway delivery and everything. I thought that was really great. And yeah, that's iconic scene. I love how they did it too, and all the kind of little contraptions that she had in her room. And just really showing I think the difference in class too, and yeah, it was really interesting, and that had a little nod to the copyrighted ruby slippers when she like clicked them together, because she had a pair of red heels or something. So that was cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
The
I
hat
think you
happened
could,
before this
huh?
too. That was the hat happening before the ball was a big part of her identity too. That we um, see a little more in this scene and through the Oz death. But
Mhm.
the black hat being her gift from her is an interesting moment.
Mhm. Yeah, and that happens in the stage
Play.
production
Yeah.
too, which is great. But I think it having her two little henchmen sidekicks like be involved in the conversation and in the stage production too. I don't remember if they actually had names, but so having them have a bigger role and again be a part of the conversation um was interesting. I think added some depth there. Song was great. I love to again not to get too nerdy on the musical part of it, but like at the end there's two key changes when she's doing her la la part, right? And so initially I was like thrown off, like, what are they doing? What is that? But I love how they did it. And I think Stephen Schwartz even said it was something that he wanted to do in the original too. And so that was like a way that
Well,
he
then when
got
you
to
get
do
to
it
add
in
those
this way.
things,
So I
yeah.
was like, okay, like but it works really well. But yeah, beautiful.
And then she just screams at the end off camera, and we're like, what is happening? What just happened? Did she fall? What's happening? It was great.
All right, let's go to I'm Not That Girl next, because we are already at 47 minutes. And we're not even done part one. So, what did you think of I'm Not That Girl? As
Lightning
our,
round.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lightning round.
Yeah.
We're gonna start speed running this.
I mean, we could just skip ahead to Defying Gravity.
I mean, I'm always skipping ahead to Defying Gravity, but I know there's a
Aren't we
few good
all?
things through
You
here.
gotta hold space for it, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to.
Not That Girl's good. It gives a little bit of a view how she views herself at that point, and how she would like to be the person who could be with Fiyero, but she doesn't think she's good enough, and that she's the one for that moment. So it definitely has some depth, but it ultimately is not my favorite song of the movie or anything. Just
Mhm.
it kind of just brings the plot forward a little bit.
I'll try to condense my yapping a little bit. I really like the song, like as a again like a music nerd, and like I have sung this song like at music like competitions and things like this, and other ones because so it's great. They changed the key, which normally would bother me, but it sounds great. I think banging it out like with the reprise in part two. I think it's great. A lot of musical themes that just keep repeating themselves throughout. Which is for a music nerd like myself, it's really cool to see. Um, see the see that. So good song. I'll keep my comments to a minimum.
Fair enough.
I'll just really quickly say I'm Not That Girl was something that was a song that like really stuck with me when I was 19 years old. And I was like
Mm.
struggling with like my own like self-worth and like self-esteem. And so like having a character like go through exactly what I felt like I was going through at the time was really powerful. And so I think it's like portraying that like teenage emotion of like seeing a person that you want and them going for somebody who you see as better than yourself. It's really really a powerful song from that perspective, and so I think it's like I'm really appreciative that it is included because I think it would have been an easy one to kind of omit. um, and so I'm glad that it's there.
Okay, so our girls go off to Oz. The wizard has invited Elphaba, and Glinda goes with her. And we get the songs One Short Day and we get Sentimental Man. And of course, One Short Day does have the cameos of Andina and Kristen. And then Sentimental Man. And then all of that will lead us into the finale of part one. But is there anything you'd like to talk about those two songs and numbers before we move on to something I'm sure we'll talk a lot about?
Plot wise, I'll just say I think the addition of like the Emerald City players was helpful, and kind of giving some backstory on the Grimoire. Because in the stage production, there, there's some explanation of it, but it's kind of like when it appears the first time is kind of all we get. It's you can pick up on it and like understand like the significance a little bit, but I think it was cool to see more like in the world like what the significance of it was. And obviously love the cameos by the originals. I think it was funny. I mean, I know it could have been a little bit distracting, but honestly, I loved it. Wouldn't have traded that. So, and then the Sentimental Man. I think we touched on Jeff Goldblum's like singing a little bit in the previous, so it doesn't like add or like take away like too much like plot wise, but interesting little nod to like each citizen as a son or daughter like makes me feel parental, and like again like he doesn't know that Alphaba's his daughter at that point, but just kind of
wizard
fun
propaganda.
things for the audience to pay attention to.
I love One Short Day. I think it's such a fun song, and I found myself listening to that one just when it gets stuck in my head regularly. So, I think the whole thing just leads you through Oz and shows you this new area that is totally different than everything else we've seen, and is totally makes no sense in some areas, and yet people are the people of Oz live there, and that's what they do. It's a lot of fun.
And also
Yeah.
how, like, Elphaba's greenness, like, doesn't stick out as much there.
Right.
You would think it would be what you'd want to be in the
Yeah.
Emerald City. She could have became the regular that everybody's trying to look like if it had gone differently and not been
Mhm.
propaganda or not been turned against her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing more to add really. I think they're fun. They're fun little expositions. The Grimoire, like, it's not common knowledge in the book. It's like hidden away in Firo's family castle, and it was given to them by a wandering traveler, the same kind of wandering traveler that Elphaba's mom likes to make friends with. And so it again get that implication of like who the book belongs to. But I think the exposition is nice because then all of a sudden, like, Madame Morrible comes in and the wizard comes in and they're talking about the Grimoire and, can you read it? Can you do spells? And if you don't have that exposition in One Short Day, then it's going to get a little confusing. So it served its purpose well.
And that book
Agreed.
element of not knowing how it got there goes on throughout the next few books. So you don't. Continues to be a question that is not really necessary to the film.
All right, then we are brought to the grand finale of Act One, which is Defying Gravity, and then we have to wait a whole year before getting For Good. But I know that there was some stuff added, and there's a little bit of changes. So Abby, I'm look forward to hearing your thoughts on this number.
Yeah, like the whole scene with the hot air balloon, like when they're trying to escape and get out, like that was new. So I thought that added more screen time, obviously, but kind of interesting to see the balloon again, um,
Mhm.
like earlier, because otherwise we don't really see it. And yeah, there's that one added line where she's like, "It's me." It's like, "Ooh, that's different. That's something." But I do like how they added like that the unlimited kind of piece where she's like flying through the clouds and everything. Like I think that kind of brings back a theme from the previous songs. And I've heard people say like it's distracting, like when Madame Marble is like making her announcements, like in the middle of the song. But that is how it happens in the stage production too. And like obviously when we're listening to the soundtrack, like we don't have all that. But I think that they did it really well. Like how she changed the like iconic riff at the end is like not like my favorite personally, but she did it well. But yeah, I'm sure more thoughts will come up as you guys talk, but I think they did well at it. Yeah.
Do all of the Elphabas change that rift at the end? Like, do they all make it their own,
I
or do they usually do Indina's?
I think for the most part in the productions I've seen, they kept it pretty similar, or if anything, maybe they changed like one note. But I think she added like a whole thing in there. But I definitely remember like watching it live, and like anytime they change it, it's like, oh, okay. And so that's just one of those things. It's hard to,
Sure.
if you keep it exactly the same, it's like, you're going to get people being like, oh, you just copied it. But then if you change it, you're going to be like, ah, you changed it. So you can't like please everyone with it.
Sure.
But, I think obviously Cynthia is very talented. So pulled it off. Yeah.
I like the inclusion of the little like reflection of baby Elphaba as
Mhm.
she's falling, and like again I think it speaks to like a sense of like womanhood and like who like just as a woman trying to find your way in the world and who you are, and like there's like the thought of like your inner child and like the child version of yourself that you're constantly trying to heal and care for. And so I thought that like visual representation of that, and like I remember how I was treated as a child and like how I let other people treat me, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be unlimited. I'm going to fly, and I'm going to, stand up for myself and do what I know is right, even though it's hard. And I'm going to do it for that little girl that was made fun of and teased and made to feel less than an other when she couldn't protect herself. I can protect her now, and I can, I can do the right thing now. So I thought that, like, I don't know if they like tried to touch on that at all in the stage production, if that would be even able to like come across in that medium, but I thought it was a really good choice to include that. I think it would have been fine without it, but I think the fact that they included it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there wasn't really anything like that in the stage production. And even in that scene, like it's mostly Alphaba and Glinda. I think right at the end you kind of get some of the guards barging in. But right kind of at the bridge section is where she starts flying. And then one thing that is different is like right after she does that iconic riff at the end. I keep saying riff, it's riff. Like it just cuts to black and then it's intermission.
Mhm.
But then in the movie, there's kind of a little sequence of her like flying around, and then the chorus does something else. So it kind of extends it a little bit. So I feel like it loses a little bit of its like power with
Mm.
that. But I do think it's helpful to see like it kind of is foreshadowing like she's going off into the wilderness and like going off on her own and everything like that. So I get it. Yeah, but that is a little bit different.
The young Alphaba scene reminded me a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter, take my hand, sort of moment of
Mm.
um, that felt it's the same, like everything emotional part of it you said was kind of what Peter was feeling in that moment too. So I see
Yeah.
that kind of a little bit too of him getting over that trauma. But I enjoyed seeing that, and then you get the broom, and the whole thing is a very powerful song that everybody takes a little bit of different something from, and definitely is the um, pinnacle of the emotion you feel in this media in this film, and I really loved every bit of it. It was definitely on my on repeat list of everything I was going through at the time, everything that came up. It definitely had a lot of impact for me, and definitely my cry song for a few days, where I just was like, this is
Oh.
definitely a strong emotional song that I need to get out, and loved it.
All right, and that is the end of Act 1, and the beginning of Act 2 opens up with Every Day More Wicked.
Let's see.
Yeah, so this is one that they split. So in the stage production, that's kind of all like Every Day More Wicked, and then Thank Goodness and Couldn't Be Happier are kind of all one song, and they all happen like right after one another.
Mhm.
And so having it be kind of a separate track adds for, I guess, more screen time, more them for them to show like kind of what's happened in the last year.
Mhm.
So I think that was a good choice in that adaptation. So we kind of see a little bit more of the context, but that is one thing that was different. Like in the stage production, it's like, oh, the townspeople are mad, and oh, they're engaged, and oh, like it all just happens so quickly. So and it's kind of harder to get an idea of like how much time has passed. Like I remember after we saw part one, Jordyn was like, so how much time passed? And I was like, actually, I don't know. Like I should know that. And so I think it was kind of helpful to expand on all of those components a little bit more rather than having it so crammed.
Even throughout For Good, my wife was struggling with the pacing of like, wait, how much time has passed here? What's happened here? Why are we jumping
Yeah.
forward? It has a lot of pacing issues with the time
Mhm.
frame that you're in, but
Yeah.
um, I can let that go. I don't care about the time. I just wanted to see the
And I
story
do
move
think that
forward.
one of the complaints of For Good is that it feels a little rushed, and like it's
Hmm.
not. I think having a little bit more, like even half an hour, and fleshing out kind of those timelines would have been nice.
Could have been helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about those first two songs before we get into our first of the new songs?
I'll just comment, I like how they almost had like time stop a little bit for Glenda when she's singing the I couldn't be happier part. Like I was trying to pay attention to it, but looked like some of the characters were still moving a little bit, but like all the confetti was like suspended in the air.
Mm.
So that was kind of
It's almost
interesting how you kind of got the idea that she was like singing it to herself, but then it kind of
stage
Yeah.
perspective
transitioned
instead
back
of yeah.
into like her singing to the crowd.
Okay, I'm
So
gonna have to pay attention to that next time
Yeah.
because I like when I heard the song, I thought that. I'm like, she like Fiero's left. She says, "Oh, he's getting me a drink," and then she sings to herself. But then in the movie, she's still on stage and she's at the microphone,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "This
mhm,
is weird." But I'm going to pay attention to the confetti being stopped because
mhm,
that makes so
Yeah.
much more sense that she
I
finally stopped and she's singing to herself.
yeah.
I thought it was like a Shakespearean aside, where like that's like part of like the structure of a play is a character will like talk to themselves or talk directly to the audience while everybody else around them is frozen. So that's how I thought of it because I also noticed the confetti being frozen and then like people like the background noise fades away and like everybody kind of stands in their spot and they freeze in place. And so I was like, oh, she's having an aside moment where she's singing to herself and like this is not what I expected and it's complicated and she's singing that portion of it to herself and then she's like, nope, you're on stage, you got to snap back into it and like
Mm.
thank goodness and she's like and everything's fine, everything is fine, I'm fine.
Trying to convince
So
herself that everything is fine, even without her best
yeah,
friend and everybody else. Yeah, it's a really.
yeah, and then like I
I'm a public
stopped.
figure now.
Yeah, exactly. And like flashing forward a little bit to like Fiero like choosing Elphaba, like I feel like that foreshadowing of that was happening even here in that like when they step off stage and they're talking and I'm like, girl, like
He just
you're
wants to find her.
delusional, like
Yeah.
you're deluding yourself. Like he's not outright saying that he doesn't love her, but he's also not saying that he does love her either.
Mhm.
And so for her to like, no, he loves me. He's choosing me. He wants this. It is going to make him happy. It's like, well, that's not what he said though. And so like I I wanted to feel bad for her, and Ariana did a great job of portraying her heartbreak, but I also was like, girl, like you kind of did this to yourself a little bit, because you like allowed yourself to live in that delusion a little bit, and it started in this number. So yeah.
Yeah, and that aside part, like where they kind of go behind the stage and have that conversation, like we don't get that in the stage production either. So I appreciate how it, that line where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm always happy," that or something. I think, yeah, that was interesting. It added more depth to it because you don't really get that. The stage again, it's like one continuous song. There's not a lot of time to see the reactions or anything, or that internal dialogue with Fiyero too. And another reason why I feel like it seems a little bit more drastic of a shift, like when he ends up choosing Alphaba. Like you kind of see it coming, but you don't get that much about what's going on in Fiyero's head at the time. So I appreciate that addition.
Okay, so Abby, what did you think of No Place Like Home?
I think it was good. And that whole sequence, like with the animals, again, we don't get anything like that in the stage production. Like very little animal representation, I guess, but that, I think, it adds something, again, a little bit more to that picture of like the political landscape, like with the animals, like they have to flee, and then we kind of get, I think that's where we get that kind of foreshadowing of like Elphaba and Fiyero like walking in the land beyond Oz or whatever. So I think it was good. Like I had told Jordyn, like I know the other songs are so iconic, and like when you add other music like that and like the Girl in the Bubble, like that, it's hard to like reach that level. And so like for me, it wasn't like super memorable like musically. But again, I haven't, like, we just saw part 2 last night, so I haven't like gone through and listened to everything again. So definitely want to analyze that a little bit more. But I think like with the content of the song, I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to kind of add to that like political landscape, like I said. And then you see
Agreed.
Dulcie Bear again too, so that's a nice tie-in.
So then our next big scene is Bach turning into the Tin Man, and the song is The Wicked Witch of the East. It's a quick little tune, but very emotional. And how did that translate from stage to screen, Abby?
Yeah, I first of all love that they actually have it in the soundtrack for this time, because that's one that I had a I definitely remember having a version that maybe I wasn't supposed to have, that I had on my iTunes account before
A
this.
little bit of limelight
And
action.
so like you hear the audience laughing and everything. Yeah. So so I love that we have that. And they definitely expanded this as well. And that sequence, like with Bach, like attempting to leave and then he can't go because of the travel ban that she just instates, like that's all new. In the stage production, it's all of that kind of happens at the same time. Like he is talking to her. I think he goes to get something, and then Alphaba comes in. They have their little conversation. She does the spell. In the stage production, Nessa starts walking, and then Bach comes in and then sees that whole thing, and then is like, "Oh, well, now you don't need me, so I'm gonna go." And so, yeah, in the movie, it expands on that a little bit more. Like he actually leaves and then comes back, like see that he can't go anywhere. So I think that adds to kind of like that dictatorship that Nessa Rose had with the Munchkin Land, because we don't really see what she's doing that makes her so hated in the stage production. Like you kind of get an idea because she's keeping Bach there against his will. But yeah, I think that added to it. And then I think in the previous episode we touched a little bit on, the floating versus walking, so I won't go too much into that again. But yeah, I think they did really well. Like the Tin Man change transformation, I think it looked really good. And I mean, it looked good in the stage production too, but again, you're super far away from it. So they didn't really have to do too much with that. But Yeah, I think it's good. That's I think where it takes like a darker turn for sure, plot wise. Where it's like, oh yeah, he is not himself anymore. Then they added that like him chopping through the door and everything. So this is intense for sure.
It was a pretty intense scene.
Yeah.
Hmm.
In the book, they do go into more of the reason why Nessa is considered such a wicked ruler and everything. And I don't remember exactly what the details were, but she was just being very cruel to the people of her territory that she was over,
Yeah.
which based on the way that the rights of ruling that area goes, actually should have been Elphaba's posting too. It passes down from the mother to the daughters, and her grandfather had gotten it when somebody it's got a whole lineage of goes through all that in the book, but technically should have belonged to Elphaba in the first place. So it's
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting contrast that we see too in like the reaction of Nessa to Bach slash the Tin Man versus like Elphaba to Fiero and like his transformation. Because like Nessa was obviously obsessed with Bach, in love with him, but then you can see like the horror that she has like out of his transformation, which like I had that same reaction as well, so I get it. Versus like, when Elphaba, that obviously in that it was saving both of their lives too with both of those spells, but the
Mhm.
reaction was very different, and it's like, you're beautiful,
Also,
and
Fiero's
everything.
reaction too. Fiero accepted
Yeah,
it as, "You did this to save me, and I'm so happy." She
yeah,
made him immortal, whereas Bach was saved from dying of his heart being removed. So
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. I get where Bach's coming from though, because like Fiero chose to put his life in danger for Elphaba, and then she chose to save him. Versus Bach didn't want to be there. He tried to leave, and
true.
Nessa Rose like forced him to stay, and then said, her line. I don't remember the exact quote, but she's like, like you can't give your heart to Glinda, you can't give your heart to anybody. Like I'm gonna take it, and then he's like, oh my god, my heart's shrinking, and then Elphaba has to try to save him. So like, I definitely get like Bach didn't want any part of that. He did not want to
Mhm.
be
True.
here. He did not want to be part of this narrative, and he was forced to be here every step of the way. And so like I definitely, even though yes, Elphaba did save his life, I do understand like why he has that anger towards her. I wish it was more directed towards Nessa because it's really
right.
her fault.
He
But,
did have a little bit of ownership. He should have taken in, like, the fact he stuck around as long as he did too. He wasn't honest with her from the beginning, so it, was a little bit
yeah.
his own fault, and that's, where he gets
Mhm.
his consequences and has to live with
Yep.
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely. I just like the person who should be having the least amount of blame was Elphaba, and somehow
Everywhere in the
she,
story.
everywhere in the story she is blameless or like not as bad as somebody else, and she still just keeps
She's
taking
just a
the
flawed
short end of the
human. Yep.
stick. Yeah, and it's so, but I guess that's the point of the story is, you have a predisposition to thinking badly of
Or
somebody based on something they can't control, and then when they do take an action, if it's not absolutely your idea of perfect, you continue to villainize them. And so
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's probably the greater lesson that we should all be taking from this.
True.
which is wrapped up in, like, the first line of the whole thing. Are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? That
Yeah.
misquoting of a
Yeah.
presidential statement, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think it's funny in both the stage production and the movie how like when Nessa starts reading the Grimoire, it's like, girl, you like Alphabet, you could totally just rip that thing away from her, like no problem. Like it's not like she'd be able to respectfully like fight back that much. So I just thought that was funny. I'm like, there's so much
Take the
time
book
in
from the
there
disabled
between
girl.
her getting to the couch and like
Yeah.
I'm like, you could have avoided it, but then we wouldn't
I,
have what we
The
have. So
plot, right.
you'd have a whole different problem of people like, you can't take a book away from the disabled girl, in the
exactly.
comments.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
for
actually,
the
at that
sake
point in
of
the stage play, she
time,
can walk, right? So,
we're gonna skip ahead, because
okay.
we did already talk about Wonderful in the last episode and adding Ariana, so we're gonna skip that. Um, so this is all, Glinda in the movie and the wizard are convincing Elphaba to come back to quote their side. Let's start over. And then this is where Fiero leaves Glinda and goes with Elphaba. He turns the gun on the Wizard. Ariana gets a reprise of I'm Not That Girl, and then we get As Long as You're Mine.
Not to skip to As Long as You're Mine, but that's like my favorite song from the entire
Well,
like
tell us
part
about
1
it.
and part 2. I just musically I love it too. And definitely left us wanting more, I'll say, in the movie. In the stage production as well, like it's kind of awkward because they're just kind of like on the floor like singing to each other, like there's not a lot of movement going on. Like it's still great, we love it, but and then it ends with like them kissing, and then it like goes yeah, it's like, oh, I feel
Fade to
wicked, blah
black.
blah blah, and then so kind of love that we like see them like walking around each other. We kind of get more of that, like you see how much that Fiyero actually does care about her, and kind of like in a different way, whereas it feels a little bit jarring in the stage production. Again, love it, here for it, but we see that progression a little bit more. I yeah, I'll let someone else talk.
People are definitely obsessed with those cardigans of hers, in that scene.
Yeah.
And the fixation point of that scene for most people is those
Yeah.
sexy cardigans, apparently.
Mhm. Mhm.
The new product of the summer, the winter.
Right.
So funny.
Should have got a brand endorsement.
Yeah.
But no,
For
I thought the
sure.
scene was really good. I thought that they did a good job of showing enough, but not showing enough to make it, too graphic or anything. It
Yeah.
was a tasteful way to give us the impression that they are moving forward with a relationship, but without it needing to be anything explicit or anything.
Totally. Mostly PG. Very different from the book, as I've gathered. So
I told my husband, I was like, I don't, because I saw it first with a group of girlfriends, and then we took the family. And I was like, I mean, there is kind of a sex scene, but you don't see anything. And then after the movie, he was like, the sex scene from the first movie was worse than this sex scene. Like the mother and the wizard was like
True.
way more intimate than anything we saw between Fiyero and Elphaba.
That's fair. I think like for me the tone of the song being different, like I forgot how graphic the first scene is between the mom and the wizard, because the song is more like
Upbeat.
upbeat and like fun, and you're like, oh yeah, you're more like dancing to the music than like paying attention to what's happening, or like it's easy to do that. Versus this is like the song is like sultry and sexy and slow, and like they're taking their time talking to each other and expressing their love and their deep affection and their respect for each other. And so it like that part feels more intimate because they have that deeper connection to each other. And so I just think like it depends on your individual interpretation of what is more intimate
Sure.
or more graphic and what makes you like feel more. Because like I said, I didn't really think that the first scene was that graphic until you said it, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, it is way worse. Like, oh, like that, there's a lot happening there, but I didn't even think of it because I'm like, yeah, like my dark-eyed beauty, and like it's not the focus, versus this scene is dedicated to them having that intimacy and having that moment together for the first time.
Jonathan Bailey took his shirt off, and I don't think anybody else heard the song after that in the film. So
Well, I certainly didn't, so I had to listen to it later.
Well, I think that was after the song ended, which was a smart
okay,
move
there we go.
because we wouldn't have heard it. So I don't know what the dialogue was at that point. So like I'll have to rewatch that. It seemed kind of important, like
later.
they were maybe planning the escape or something, but like
Yeah.
I was not there at all.
The line about how I have a castle you can stay in, and that was
Yes.
pretty great. And then she's like, "Where do you live?" Oh, the other castle. It was great.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you say that, that makes so much sense, because one thing that I was wondering, like after seeing part 2, was like, where did this castle come from? I'm like, she was staying like in this
Gilmo
tree in the
Cute
wilderness, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden now she has this with the trapdoors and that everything. So that clears it up. Yeah.
It can't.
That
Yeah.
back door was very, very helpful to her in the
Where
long
does she
run.
go in the stage production?
It you can't really tell because there's not a lot of like set that I recall, and again, maybe I was too focused
Fair.
on the song and what they were doing, but I don't remember there being anything like specific, like any kind of landmark, like identifying like where they
You're
were, like, towards
predisposed
the
to
end.
pull your knowledge of the Wizard of Oz a little bit and know that
Sure.
she goes to
Right.
a
Okay.
castle.
Right. At least in the as long as you're mine part, and then when it skips to yeah, exactly. When it skips to kind of like the Dorothy and the water, and like the for good part of it, like yeah, it's kind of relying on that part, and like they have that part behind, not to skip ahead, but like they have everything behind a sheet, so you kind of get the silhouette of like Dorothy throwing the water on Elphaba, and then she kind of sinks down and you get some smoke. So I did like how they
Apparaturas.
have that in the movie, how you didn't actually see it, but it was like shadows. So that was a nice little nod to that as well. And also like it's still kind of fuzzy, like how did that even happen in the first place? But I guess the location is not super clear. Like you kind of are, I again was picturing the Wizard of Oz in my head too, and
Sure.
like where the flying monkeys around, and like that's kind of her lair and everything.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Well, while we're speaking of her layer, and the visualization of it, let's skip ahead to No Good Deed. So we, sister dies. Glinda and Elphaba have a little kerfluffle, and then the soldiers come, but Fiero comes and saves her, and that's when they take Fiero away. And correct me if I'm wrong, Abby, but stage production, both Fieros is Elphaba, but in the movie, the first Fiero is Glinda.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, which I kind of liked it. It was different because I was like, oh, does that mean Alphabet's gonna say it again? But it kind of makes sense as like again, it shows how much Glinda actually did care for him.
Mhm.
And I don't even remember. She might have been there, but it wasn't super memorable. Like her even seeing all of that happening,
Mm.
like or she was not the focal point of
Sure.
that scene in the stage production. And yeah, I mean obviously she was there because he pointed the gun at her and stuff, but yeah, so I think that added a little bit more to that, like how much she actually did care for him and everything. Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs as well from from the whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
No Good Deed is probably my favorite from the whole soundtrack. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I
It's well
thought
done.
I wasn't as emotional as I thought I was going to be in the movie either time. I've seen it twice. As Adina gets me.
Mhm.
Um I thought, because I mean, Adina's version, I cry almost all the time. It's so good, and it gets me so fired up. And so I thought that I was just going to bawl. But one thing I will say is Cynthia's voice like breaks it in one of the
Mhm.
notes, and it's a very emotional note, and that does get me a little choked up because it's
Mhm.
like it's such a like the emotion coming through, and like
Yeah.
her voice cracks, and I don't know if it like was meant to or she did it and they kept it, but it's really really great. And
Mhm.
of course the cinematography and the CGI and the set and everything during this number is just amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
love how you can see like when she's like Nessa, Dr. Dillerman, and then Fear, like how
Yes.
you can actually see it. Like
Yep.
that was really cool. To like have that visual representation and to see like kind of what Fiora was going through. Because that was a
Yeah.
little bit downplayed, I would say, in the stage production, and maybe to keep it a little bit more kid friendly too. But I don't think I really got the impact of like, no, he was like gonna die. Um, if that didn't happen, like I definitely got that way more from the movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, good
Any other
stuff.
thoughts on No Good Deed before we move on?
I think it was great. I loved it. It was definitely a great way to show the emotions that she was feeling at the time, and that she is realizing that I can try all I want to be good, but it seems like everybody just wants me to be wicked, so that's what I'm going to be. No good deed's going
Hmm.
to be good enough, so I might as well be what everybody thinks I'm going to be.
Hmm.
Yep. And she thinks Glinda's just betrayed her. She thinks Fiero has died, so she's like, what else is there?
Hmm. I think it's cool though because I don't think she actually really does what she says she's gonna do. In that, it's just kind of like like a snapshot of how she was
Yeah.
feeling in that moment. But like
Sure.
we do see again, for good comes after that, right? And like they forgive each other, and and all of that.
Well,
And
she is kind of mean to Dorothy.
true. Well, in the stage production, I feel like that's more of that comedy element too. Like when we see that, like you and your little dog too, huh? And then like she like slams the door. Like you kind of get that idea. It's like, oh yeah, Dorothy's just like a side
A
plot,
side
you know?
character. Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
happens in
just
the
like
movie
going
too,
all
but it's
off about it.
yeah,
Being
it's
Dorothy
funnier.
over there listening to For Good, just these
Yeah.
two sing a love song to each other while she's stuck down here in the cave. Like, what's
Yeah,
happening up there? Glinda, is that you?
I love all of those memes. Yeah. All of the people, all of the influencers like recreating what Dorothy would be doing underneath, listening to them sing For Good is just so funny.
Totally.
So okay, let's kind of lightning round the March of the Wind Hunters and the Girl in the Bubble, because that is everybody is out to get I think has she already taken Dorothy or not yet? But anyway, so they're like, let's go get her, let's kill the witch. And they all go off. The wizard has just told Dorothy to kill the witch. So they're off to get her. And then Glinda sings The Girl in the Bubble. Absolutely love the cinematography. Like every single shot is like a mirror image, and it's so cool. So again, I really want to see cinematography win an Oscar. I want to see Wicked just take all the Oscars. But anyway, is your thought, Abby, on the second added song?
I think it's good too. Similar with I think it's No Place Like Home. I feel like it's hard to be that iconic as the rest of the soundtrack.
Sure.
But I do think, it's helpful. Like we do get to see more of Glinda's emotion in it and her self-reflection, and also just like how alone she is in that moment. Like even though she obviously it has more of a position of guess of like power or esteem, but like none of that is really helping her in that scenario because she lost like the most important people to her. So I feel like when I listen to the soundtrack again, like maybe I'll get like on a musical level, I'll get it a little bit more. So I like what it does for the story. And yeah, one just small comment about like March of the Witch Hunters, like we in the stage production, because obviously we don't have like a lion on stage. Like all we see for that is like Bach, I think it's Bach or one of the townspeople, like holding a big tail, like, and it goes like off stage and like trying to yank it to be like, oh, but then he's too scared to like
Music
come on
powered, yeah.
stage, like that kind of a thing. Versus like, when the movie is CGI, we can actually see the whole thing. So that's yeah. One
And
difference
Fiero's right there. Could have been saying, I also took you out of the classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just keeping his mouth shut the whole time, just trying to get back to his love.
That's exactly how I headcanoned it. I'm like, Fiero is like, you guys say whatever you want. You guys are going to Alphaba. I want to go to Alphaba. I'm already here. Let's just roll with this so that I can get back to where I want to be. And
same reason he joined the Guard, really. So it's
pretty much, yeah.
He's just a great actor. Yeah.
All roads lead to Alphaba for him. So
everything but the other big road.
Any final thoughts before we finish out with For Good?
I really wanted to see, just a cameo of Sabrina Carpenter somewhere in the Munchkin Land area. She's already the right height, so I somewhere in there.
I'm sure she'll be in some sort of musical in the future.
The next one, yeah.
For sure.
Maybe she'll play Dorothy.
No,
I know.
She's rumored to do Rapunzel for the live action Tangled.
No,
which
I don't want
it
it
for.
No.
She wants to do an Alice in Wonderland.
I think
she started production on that. She's
so she can't be, if she's Alice, she can't be Rapunzel.
But it'll be a musical rendition of that on as a movie soon. So that'll be interesting.
Jonathan Bailey for Flynn Rider.
Always.
I know. I would love it, but I think he's too old. But he like a younger would be so perfect. But I do think he's too old, unfortunately.
Fair.
Because I think Rapunzel's like 18, and then Flynn has to be like 22 or something. So
max.
Yeah.
Oh well. In my mind.
Okay, so let's talk. Let's talk about For Good.
beautiful, stunning. I mean, emotional.
Mm.
I know it's not directly related to the song, but like the door scene, like kind of at the end of that, like that's new.
Mm.
But love that. I think that's the part where I like teared up actually. I didn't really the whole time I was expecting to, but that was the part that I did more. And I mean, I don't want to say what's already been said by so many others. Just a great song, like, they're just seeing that the friendship is the most important thing to them, like that they are forgiving each other. I think both of them taking accountability is great, like to an extent. And just beautiful. Again, it's after seeing the memes again, I'm like picturing Dorothy like in the under
I
the trapdoor, like
know.
and all of that. But yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
it
definitely.
hit
Go
I
ahead.
think it hit a lot harder, like seeing Ariana and Cynthia like through from the beginning of the first
Mhm.
movie, through all the press touring that they did, through filming this movie, and all the press post this production, like knowing how they have become such good friends and how they genuinely do love each other just like as human beings, like having them sing that song to each other like really hits because I haven't hearing For Good, Idina and Kristen hits because it's like the classic, it's the iconic, but like not visually, I'm a very visual person, so like not being able to ever visually see them singing to each other and seeing how much they love each other, like it's just you don't get I don't think you can really get the full effect of it unless you see it and you see the tears in their eyes and see them holding hands and like that kind of like visual impact that you have when you can see two people in the same space together. And then again, like I said, them being so close in real life too and having that natural chemistry and that natural affection for each other just made it hit like really really deeply. So I'm sitting there with my best friend and I'm crying. I'm like, wow, I really have been changed for good, like they're so right.
Oh.
Like so I'm just like, wow. And so like that like is really like magical again, like, and just speaking broadly about a lot of the music in this production, like it depending on where you're at in life, it's going to hit a little bit differently. And so when you're watching this with your best friend right next to you, like you really feel it and you really feel like that love that they have for each other and like they're really speaking to you like on a spiritual level at that point. So
Oh, now I'm gonna
Mm.
cry again.
I had a similar experience going to it though, because we went with our group of friends that we hang out with every week, and have become integral part of our life. And so my wife's best friend was sitting next to her on the other side. So it really was that moment of, yeah, I have been changed for the good by knowing all these people that are
mm,
around me here, this group of friends. So I definitely agree with everything you said there. It is a very emotional, very important song to
yeah,
the
hmm
experience of the movie, even.
yeah.
Love it.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I'll just say in the finale, like kind of closing, remember where they kind of do a little reprise of For
Mhm.
Good there, and then you kind of see them going their separate ways. I love how they did that. And in the stage production too, it's pretty cool because they are singing together, but like they're trying to show that visually they're in different places. Like I believe Glinda is in her bubble, and then like Alphaba's kind of on the ground like with Fiero, and kind of like just singing out, but still together. So I like how they were able to portray that in the movie too. And yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful, crying all the time.
And the Creamery opening up for Glinda was added, right?
The what? Sorry.
Creamery opening up for Glinda?
Yes, I did forget about that. Yeah, that was new. And especially because and I think this might be different in the book, but those that actually went through the whole book can correct me. But in the stage production in the movie, like it's kind of a whole thing that like Glinda doesn't actually have any magical abilities, but I don't know if that's true in the book or not.
That's the same in the book. She still has no
Oh,
powers.
she
She's
doesn't?
just
Okay,
a
never
figurehead.
mind.
Yeah, she is
Yeah, so
entirely
that's
without power.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. Like, maybe I know I've heard, maybe it was John and Drew talking about, like, how do we keep the universe going and all that. Like, it's kind of, I think, leaves the door open a little bit to, like, what could potentially happen, or not. They could just leave it there, knowing how much this made and all of the marketing that went behind it. I feel like they won't. So, but it
I'd love
kind
to
of leaves
see
that
another
door open.
sequel. I think it could be really interesting to see another part of the story. I'd
Yeah.
be fine with going back and doing the young Glenda and Elphaba stories. I could see them buying the rights to Wizard of Oz and doing a proper Wizard of Oz with the Wicked storyline built into it.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's what he would want to do. I mean, maybe not, but I would love to see what John M. Chu does with the Wizard of Oz, with with Cynthia Erivo being being the Wicked Witch of the West, and Ariana being Glinda the Good Witch.
That
I
would
would
be
you could really
really
do a
think it,
lot.
because
Yeah.
there's like, everybody's like, the Wizard of Oz and Wicked are two different stories. They're not the same story, but they are. And like, to see like all the plot holes that the Wizard of Oz and Wicked do have, if you're comparing the two, how he would correct those would be really
Mhm.
fascinating.
Be really fun.
I'd say,
And
like,
I think
overall take. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
you're fine. I'm
Just
pretty sure
overall,
they're owned by the same parent company right now, so I don't actually think it's as big
I
a
think
problem as they
so.
say it is right now.
true.
So,
Yeah. It might just be more of the fear of like messing with the beloved classic of Wizard of Oz, and like
Yeah.
with Judy Garland's performance and Margaret Hamilton as the original Wicked Witch, like, do you really want to like mess with that? Like, because Wicked, I think it's
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 separate.
its own separate thing, so like it's
Yeah.
different enough that you can do it and have it be a spin-off, and like it's directly related to Wizard of Oz, but it's still not quite the Wizard of
Right.
Oz. And so like that might be part of their like apprehension to
Yeah.
fully remake it. But I think it would be super cool to see a Wizard of Oz remake with like modern technology and CGI for like the lion and the Tin Man and
Yes.
it's kind of
Scarecrow.
time, yeah.
Like I think that would be really cool. And if you were gonna do it, now's the time to do it, when there's all the Wicked
Exactly.
hype, and like
Yeah.
if they're
It's
gonna
from
do
the
it.
30s. It's time to redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I
if we
mean,
could
they've
remake Harry Potter and that just ended like 10 years ago, then we can remake The Wizard of Oz. It's been
right.
literally almost 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
The
let's go.
problem is it's a little bit cursed in productions of things. Like the version of
It's true.
Return to Oz that Disney tried to do was absolutely a fever dream, and everybody's tried to do it, and nobody's done it right except for this dark retelling of the witch instead. So
That's true.
Yeah. I think that John M. Chu could do it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
all of them, they have so much respect, I think, for even just the
Yes.
original cast of Wicked. And yeah, we know it differs from the book and everything. But I think they really, it sounds like they all really care about like doing it as much justice as possible. So I feel like, yeah,
And that's
like you
really
said, if
important.
anyone could
So
do it,
that's
it would
same as
be.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill taking care of The Witcher and all those things.
Yeah.
An actor who really cares about the property will do it justice. So
Right.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate that with all these characters and all these actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe when it hits the 100-year mark.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't take that long.
True.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to skip the bookmarked moments because we are over an hour and a half into this episode. But Abby, thank you so much for joining us. It was fabulous having you here. And yeah, everybody follow along Book Watch on Instagram. We have a Facebook group. Join the conversation and let us know what adaptations you would like us to cover.
Thank you guys for having me, for letting me yap. Thanks to my
Oh,
totally,
yes.
and my bestie Jordyn.
Abby, you have changed us all for the good.
Right back at you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah-Daye, on Instagram at captain.mcd. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.